Welcome to The Show Off, the podcast where we make each other sit down, shut up, and watch episodes of our favorite TV shows and then explain, or be forced to listen to, why it's top-tier television. This show is for anyone who has ever wanted to go on endless tangents about their favorite shows, but their friends and family don't want to hear it. We get it. Ditch those losers and come hang out with us instead. I'm Amanda.
And I'm Kampy.
And this is The Show Off.
Previously on the Show Off podcast, we are going to be watching the first and the series finale episode of one of my favorite shows, Barry on HBO. First of all, what do you know?
Bill Hader.
Mm-hmm.
He kills people.
Yes.
I think that's about it.
My summary is Hitman Wumpy actor.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, not my first choice type of show typically, so this will be interesting.
Welcome, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
Back, or for the first time,
to
the Show Off. We're happy to have you here.
Yeah,
What's
we're
up?
so excited.
I am here with my lovely friend, Amanda. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. Yeah, can't complain. All right, so today on the Show Off, we are going to be talking about one of my favorite shows.
Yeah, your first episode.
Yes, we're talking about Barry.
Barry
On HBO. So yeah, we're talking about the first episode of the first season and the last episode of the last season.
The finale.
So right off the bat, spoiler warning.
Yeah, big old spoiler warning. Like even more so than
Yeah.
our previous episode.
Yeah, this is like the top tier version of spoiler warnings because we're literally talking about the series finale in this episode. So we're covering it all.
Yeah.
Because, I can't be chill.
I'm stoked. I enjoyed this a lot more than I thought I would.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay, because I had my money on that you wouldn't like it at all.
Okay. Yeah. Honestly, I did too a little bit. I was like, well, by the way you described it, I don't know. Like, definitely not a show I would just go for on my own.
Right.
Especially these days, I tend to watch TV for escapism and for, like more fluffy than not sometimes.
Oh, yeah, totally. I
like some substance,
Right.
But assassin turned actor would probably not like make my list normally. I also wasn't aware that this was like a half hour show.
It's a short form comedy.
Yeah, which I was definitely expecting it to be like an hour long. I mean, you said it was a comedy, but I don't know. I expected it to be longer for some reason.
Yeah, it's very much in the vein of, so Alec Berg is the creator, producer of the show, and he's done other things like Silicon Valley, which is also a short form comedy.
Okay.
So it's very much in his, I guess, MO.
Makes sense.
Well, I'm happy to hear that you like.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
Did you like it? Do you say that you like it or just more than you thought you would?
No, I liked it.
Okay.
Yeah, I liked it.
Very happy to hear that.
Yeah,
Sweet.
for sure. I'm ready to dive in.
All right. So to start off, we'll just go through some quick stats of the show. So premiered in 2018, ended in 2023, did have a bit of a hiatus during COVID. Actually, quick fun fact, it was during COVID that Bill Hader rewrote everything he had already wrote for season 3 because they weren't able to shoot it, and then wrote season 4 during that time as well.
Wow.
So there was a lot of thought and consideration that went into the show before the whole thing was even made.
Do you know, like, did he rewrite it because like for COVID reasons, or did he just like not like what he wrote and wanted to rewrite it?
It was more as he started getting into developing season 4, he decided he wanted to change some things in season 3 to better set up what goes on in season 4.
Wow. And he wrote the entire show.
Yes.
By himself.
Him and Alec Berg.
Okay.
Wrote it together.
Cool.
Yeah. So written and directed by Bill Hader and Alec Berg. There are a few others thrown in there.
Nice.
Starring Bill Hader as Barry, Stephen Root as Fuchs, Sarah Goldberg as Sally Reed, Anthony Carrigan as NoHo Hank, and Henry Winkler as Gene Cousineau. Let's get into it. The first episode, titled Make Your Mark. We do love a good pun. And directed by Bill Hader. This was his directorial debut.
Nice.
So I've got notes
on
direction because I really fucking love what he does with directing.
I agree. I have lots of things to say about camera and stuff, but go ahead.
Yes.
You go.
This is going to be pretty technical focused episode. as well as thematic, because I'm all about themes.
Yeah.
All right, so we start with our cold open.
Mm-hmm.
We are in a hotel room. Everything seems to be ordinary at first. You can hear someone in the bathroom, and it's Barry. He comes out and walks across the hotel room, and the camera pans to reveal dead body in the bed.
Okay, can I interject here
Yes.
already? I wanted to say this opening shot, you had just explained that, and that was accurate, but the execution of this, like the first shot is so still for so long. At least it felt that way to me.
Yeah, they do that where they just hold
all the
on a shot for a
time,
long
and
time.
I enjoy that. I liked that a lot. And because then, like, when the camera does move, you really notice it.
Yes.
So as soon as we open on this hotel room, and yeah, you hear him in the bathroom or whatever, and he comes out, and I was like, before they even pan to the body, I was like, are we about to see a dead body?
Like, you're just expecting it.
Yeah. And sure the fuck enough. Well, and like, I knew you had told me, like, he's an assassin.
Yes.
So I was like, okay, I'm expecting some dead guys.
It's kind of hard not to.
Yeah.
And the first shot really does set up, like, this is what the show's going to be. You're going to expect one thing, which, you know, most people wouldn't expect dead body in the bed.
Right.
But it's always going to make that, you know, not sudden. It's a very subtle transition into what becomes, oh shit, this is a serious situation.
Very slow.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Like, you would never know that just based on the title.
Right.
Or, kind of just dropping. Even if you just knew, okay, there's a show on HBO, it's called Barry, it's made by Bill Hader. Would any of those things lead you to believe that this is about an assassin?
Bill Hader.
Yeah.
No. Comedy guy does drama.
Does drama and comedy at the same time.
And the one thing that I love about this shot too is when Barry walks across the room and is now sharing the frame with the dead guy in the bed, he never once looks at the body. He does a quick pat down of himself to make sure he has everything.
Yeah.
Like, wallet, keys, mask, good.
He does the, like, I'm leaving the house thing.
Yes. And never once looks at the body.
Yeah.
And then what I call Barry's depression music comes in. So it's the theme music called Barry.
Okay.
And so it very much is setting the tone of this guy who's very depressed and very monotonous.
Yep. I definitely made a note of that.
Yes. Meanwhile, dead body.
Yeah.
So yeah, we transition to him in an airplane flying back home. He's sleeping on the airplane and someone opens the window and he gets, I don't know, he's not pissed, but he's clearly like upset that the window got open. And I call this out because, okay, this episode of the podcast is going to be Kampy Explains Comedy.
Give it to us.
And we're starting here. So
let the people know.
Yes, I have things to say about comedy.
Okay.
Especially American comedies. So comedy is not just saying funny things in a funny way, which is...
Sometimes it is.
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah.
And it's frankly what a lot of American comedy is.
Sure.
I would say this is like a Judd Apatow approach.
Okay.
So if you don't know Judd Apatow, his direction style is letting his actors improvise. And you get a lot of great comedy moments out of this. So a good example is Anchorman with Steve Carell when he says, "I love lamp." And they just riff off of that for a little bit. That's all improv.
Okay.
And what it results in, though, is comedy that's very heavily reliant on dialogue to be funny. And so you often get just very vanilla shot, reverse shot.
Yep.
And not taking full advantage of the medium that you have.
Right.
And so one thing that I think this show does really well with its comedy is use everything at its disposal, which is why this episode is Kampy Explains Comedy.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to be explaining some of the things that they do in the scenes to set up just the ridiculousness of the situations that we find ourselves in with these characters.
Yeah.
And so, I call out the airplane scene because you have Barry being so upset by this guy opening a window on an airplane because he's trying to sleep. And that's more bothersome to him than the dead guy in the bed.
Right.
And it's all done. This whole bit is done without saying a single word of dialogue.
No, they don't say anything for so long in this opening. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But yeah, that's a really good point. Like, the way you move the camera can be funny. The way you don't move the camera can be funny. You know, obviously set deck and like stuff people are wearing, you know, it all kind of adds up to the
sound
comedy.
effects,
sound effects,
all that stuff. Yeah.
Not just dialogue.
So I'll keep pointing it out as we go through,
yeah.
especially this first episode. The last episode, there's not really a ton of
It's
comedy.
not super funny, I would say.
We'll get there.
We'll
talk about that.
Let's just keep going. He's on the plane,
He's
and
on
then
the plane.
he lands.
He lands. We're in his apartment that looks like a piece of shit.
Oh,
Shout out to
my
the set designers.
God. I wrote my note on this is, oh no, his depressing apartment. It looks so sad.
It looks like a piece of shit.
Yeah, like absolute trash.
Like the walls look like they're either moldy or water damaged.
Yeah, it's like a 70s dungeon.
Yeah,
I would say.
His bed's unmade. There's barely any decoration on the wall.
There's like a Metallica poster or something.
Yeah, there's a Metallica poster in the back. That's like his only decoration.
That's like, it's very random.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you get to see his shitty life in shitty Ohio.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think it's snowing also. It's winter.
Yeah, which is a great touch.
Yeah, for sure. Like you can, you know, we're from the Midwest. We can say this. Like it sucks. It just like I felt that as a Midwesterner.
You feel it in your soul.
Yeah.
Like the seasonal depression.
Yeah, the seasonal depression.
Just in that one shot of the shitty apartment building in snow. And you also see in Barry's apartment, there's like a little, I guess, display of his Marine Corps badges and different stuff like that.
Okay,
so
I didn't catch that.
Yeah. So it's a very small little insert to show he's a Marine, ex-Marine.
Okay, cool.
So Fuchs enters the picture. So Barry's sleeping in his bed and Fuchs comes in and wakes him up.
Yeah. And this is about to be our first dialogue, right?
Yes. This is the first time we're getting any kind of
it's
dialogue.
been like a solid 4 to 5 minutes at this point.
But we already know the main things we need to know.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I'm just saying, like, out of a 32 or 33 minute episode, we've already had 5 minutes go by with zero talking.
Yes.
It's crazy.
To establish how fucking depressed this guy is.
And how, like, weird his life is. Because he just, like, assassinated a dude in one location and then flew home to Ohio. Anyway, so his handler comes in.
So his handler, his friend, his mentor, his father figure, we'll keep going on about that.
Okay.
Fuchs comes in. So he wakes him up, which I like calling this out because that means he has a key to Barry's apartment.
Okay. Actually, I did notice this, that like they don't establish how he's gotten into the apartment, and Barry seems surprised to see him there. Like he's like, I think is this the part where he says, "How long have you been watching me sleep?"
Yes.
Which is A, objectively funny. B, I did think that he had broken in somehow, but
which is fair. Yeah. But you establish pretty quickly that like they're friends. There's a weird relationship.
Yeah, there's something.
Yes. So yeah, he starts off by saying, like, he just ignores Barry's questions as he often does. And Fuchs says, "One less bad guy in the world. Nice work as usual, Barry."
And my note here is, okay, he assassinates bad guys.
He assassinates bad guys.
Interesting.
Yeah, or at least that's what Fuchs likes to tell him.
Says,
that's what Barry likes to tell himself.
Sure.
Right,
Yep.
so he assassinates bad guys. So we're okay. We have a reason
to kill people
and a reason to sympathize with Barry, right?
Yes.
So like it's kind of like the Dexter effect, right? Like you cheer and root for Dexter because he's a serial killer who kills serial killers.
Okay.
If he was just straight up a serial killer, you'd be like, fuck this guy.
Right.
It's like you at least have, a justification to like him. So we get a little more context through the conversation that they have. Fuchs calls out that Barry's whole situation is starting to look like the old Barry before Barry had a purpose.
Yes.
So again, kind of showing how Fuchs gave Barry a purpose through, as we'll learn, his career of assassination.
Murder.
Yes. And he even says, he's like, I worry about you, Barry.
Yeah.
And then immediately undermines that concern with, I have another job for
you. Yep.
And then, as he's presenting Barry with this job, it's going to be a hit for the Chechen mob out in LA.
Yep.
And Barry's not really paying that close attention to too much of the details. Fuchs makes a comment of like, we'll be able to hang it all up someday, which Barry immediately responds to, saying like, when will that be? Like clearly
he's into that idea.
Yes, he's into not being an assassin anymore.
Yeah.
But not enough that he's willing to actually push back.
Right.
Yes, and I you really establish in the scene, at least it's obvious to me on a rewatch, so I'd like your thoughts on this, how weird Barry and Fuchs' relationship is.
Yeah.
Because he's the handler.
Yeah.
But there's almost a father figure vibe. But I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. I definitely got weird vibes too. There's the actual conversation that they're having, right? Like they're talking about a job, going to kill some other guy for these Chechen mob guys. So that in and of itself, it's weird. I did feel like immediately the power dynamic is like Fuchs has the power.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Even though Barry's the killer.
Yes.
Ostensibly. So definitely felt that. And yeah, like what you said about him kind of dangling this carrot of like, we can hang it all up one day. And, maybe this is like the big score or whatever. Or I don't know if he was saying that or if he was saying it would lead to the big score. I don't know. Either way, it definitely just felt manipulative and gross.
Yes. Okay. I'm so glad you said that.
So yeah, definitely got that vibe. And then I did also make a quick note, just since you didn't mention it, he says something about like keeping expenses down. They have like a little side conversation where he's like, oh, did you spend XYZ on something? Or he stayed in the hotel for like an extra day or something.
Yeah, he was in the hotel for 2 days.
Yeah.
Just moping around.
Was there a dead body there the whole time? We don't know. But yeah, so he has like this little side conversation where he's like, all those expenses add up, Barry. And Barry's like, yeah, whatever. But yeah, power dynamic. Fuchs has the power. He seems very manipulative.
And I'm glad you call out that he seems manipulative, because I would say throughout the show, it is Fuchs' defining trait. That is what he's good at. That's what he can do, is manipulate people.
Do we ever know if he has other like assassins? And
he does not.
He does not.
No.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do we ever find out who he's working for?
He's not really working for anyone.
Interesting.
Yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep going.
Fuchs' whole arc gets really weird.
Whole thing. Okay.
All right, so then we smash cut to our title card.
Yeah. Big old red title card.
Big old red title. I am going to describe this title card. And my description of the title card is going to last longer than the title card is on screen.
Yep.
A black background and giant red, bold, all capital letters.
Yep.
Barry. And then this awesome trumpet. I'm going to insert it here so y'all can hear it. Just this awesome. It is Change for the World by Charles Bradley. So yeah, my description of that was longer than it actually lasts.
Yep.
And
it's like a hot 2 seconds.
Yes, and I'm going to talk about this.
Okay.
Because this is I love this. I love this title card so much. To me, it feels very iconic. I agree.
I made a note of it, when I was watching it.
Let me hear your thoughts on it first.
Honestly, my whole note is I like the big red title card. But I think what you're about to go into is it brings the drama.
Yeah.
It brings the drama. And I love that the visual of it and the dramaticness of it very much contrasts at this point to his character. Like I wrote in my overall notes for, these 2 episodes in the show in general, that I wrote, I love how guy he is. He's just a dude. He's just a guy.
He's just a schlub.
Yeah, he just seems so ordinary and boring. I mean, Bill Hader kind of gives that vibe. Like, he's a dude. Yeah. So yeah, I think the title card kind of is super big and dramatic and bombastic and contrasts with his character right now at this moment.
Yes, and I think it's a perfect symbol, I guess, for the show on a whole, where, I wrote bombastic as well. You have this bombastic, dramatic music that just cuts in out of nowhere. There's no fade in, fade out. It's boom, trumpets.
Boom. Yeah.
And you got this very simple, bold title card.
Yeah.
And it's a departure from a lot of title sequences we see nowadays with especially prestige television. Like think Game of Thrones title.
Right.
Like
they have like the big
yes,
animated
and all this stuff going
music.
on. And it's long lasting and you get all the, people that are
Right.
involved in the show. No.
Boom.
Barry.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is a perfect symbol or representation of the show because the drama of that sequence is the music, which is surrounding the title Barry, which isn't a very simple, very boring thing itself. So you have the drama that surrounds him, but Barry himself is still very bold and impactful and covered in red.
Yeah.
So yeah, overall, I think it's a brilliant title card.
Yeah.
Just for its pure simplicity, but again, representation of the whole show.
I enjoyed it.
Yes. So moving back into the show itself, we get to the airport where Barry is landing in LA, which is where the Chechen hit is going to take place.
Yep.
So he's at the airport. Fuchs is like, I set you up. I got you this dope car. Cut to the dope car.
Yeah.
It's just like this piece of shit from the 90s.
Yeah. Is it a station wagon?
It's a station
It's a station wagon. And there's an even like crazier, funnier black humor part that comes in later, but I don't know if you're going to mention it or not.
I guess we'll see.
Okay, go ahead.
And one of the details too, and again, this is Kampy Explains Comedy. In the back seat of this car is a baby seat and diaper.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, I wrote, oh my God, there's a car seat in the car.
And it's never mentioned. It's never acknowledged.
No!
It's just there.
No, it's just there. Does he look at it at one point? Like he gets in the car and he looks at it.
Not that I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they definitely show, like the way they have the camera positioned, it's like showing him on an angle so that you can see into the back seat and you see the car seat there.
Yeah. So again, just ways of setting up your expectation for one thing. Assassin going to LA.
Yeah.
Shitty station wagon with a baby seat.
Right.
It's just, little ways of visual comedy throughout. So Barry drives to the Chechen mob's house, and we finally meet my favorite character of the show, No-Ho Hank. Amanda,
Hank.
What are your first impressions of No-Ho Hank?
Silly. A silly bald man. I like him. He amused me for sure. Was not expecting the silliness of the Chechen mobster.
But yeah, so we get No-Ho Hank coming out to greet Barry, and I wrote that he just exudes just amazing energy. Like he's so effervescent. He's so cool.
He's
so
the
chill.
opposite of Barry.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes.
Yay, this is why we're here. I can point things out too.
He is Barry's opposite. He is excited about what he's doing.
He's exuberant. He has a zest for life.
Yes.
He's just so happy to be in the Chechen mob. I would like you, this doesn't come up in either of these episodes. I would like you to explain why he's called No-Ho Hank.
I wrote that down.
Okay.
So yeah, I wrote a sidebar about his name. So his name is No-Ho Hank. And if you don't know, NoHo stands for North Hollywood.
Okay.
So that's a neighborhood in LA.
Sure.
That people might call me out in the comments for this and go ahead, educate me. From what I know about North Hollywood, it's a very hipster, eclectic, artistic, vibrant area.
Okay.
It's surrounded by like Studio City and Burbank and like all the different sound stages. So
Cute.
A lot of actors live there.
Sure.
And influencer centric as well. A lot of influencers live in NoHo.
Okay.
So we never find out how No-Ho Hank got his name. So I have two theories.
Oh, that's fun.
So he does make a comment later in the scene that we haven't been in LA very long, meaning the Chechen mob.
Okay.
So my headcanon is it's one of two ways. Either No-Ho Hank liked North Hollywood so much he gave himself that name because he felt represented.
I could see that.
By North Hollywood. Or it was meant to be an insult. Like other mobsters were like, you're No-Ho Hank. Like you're this antithetical thing to the Chechen mob. So we're going to make fun of you by calling you No-Ho.
Yeah. That... I don't know.
And yeah, like he just adopted it and like owns it.
Right. I feel like I need more context to make my own judgment. But I do like that he even has this title, whatever you want to call it. it definitely fits his silly personality.
It does. Amanda, as we get through this scene, I'm going to give it a quick high level.
Yep.
So we got NoHo Hank like says, welcome Barry, come into the house. Yep. Can I get you anything? Let's sit down and talk
Let
details.
us tell you about this hit.
What would you say is the tone of this scene? They're talking about a hit. They're talking about murdering someone. What's the tone?
The tone is like fun business meeting.
Again, not what you would expect.
No. I mean, at this point, I'm starting to get the vibes, you know? So like I don't know if I was overtly surprised by this, especially like as soon as he opens the door, you can tell what vibe NoHo Hank has, and like being sort of upbeat and sunny and effervescent and whatever. So you kind of assume that's going to carry over into whatever conversation they're about to have about killing some dude. It's funny.
But yeah, and then there's other things that really add to the tone, because obviously the way that the actors perform is going to set the tone of whether this is serious or fun.
Yeah.
But there's other things that they do in this scene that I just freaking love.
Yeah.
So as they're walking through the house to go and have their meeting, Hank offers him a juice box, Hawaiian punch.
Yeah.
They walk through the living room. In the background of the living room, in the background of the shot, you see Barry and Hank come in, and Jesse on the Disney Channel is playing.
Yep.
In the background. And then Hank makes a comment of, we got to have this meeting outside. Goran's daughter's friends are over and they're watching Jesse. And it just smash cuts to a bunch of 10-year-old girls
like
with juice boxes.
10-year-old girls sitting on couches watching Disney Channel.
Looking super bored. And in the background, you just hear this horrible punchline from Jesse with no context about something about shoes in the bowling alley.
Oh my God.
And the laugh track. And it's such like, again, like the way that it's directed and edited, you get these comedy punches without anyone really having to say much.
Yeah. It's understated, I would say, in that way. Like it just hits you and then it's gone. It doesn't overstay its welcome.
Nope. It's just like very quick.
Yeah. Boom. Funny. We're moving on.
We're not going to make a thing of it.
Yep.
Yes.
Which is great.
And that's, I think, too, what contributes to the tone of it all. Of like the ridiculousness. And I think that's what's so, at least in the first episode, there's so much contrast of what you would expect to be going on and what you would expect to happen versus the reality of it all.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about the assignment.
Yes.
So NoHo Hank explains that Goran's wife, was doing some suspicious stuff with her trainer. So they followed her. Stuck a lipstick camera in the hotel room and caught her sleeping with the trainer, Ryan Madison. Wisconsin shout out here, by the way. They pull up his driver's license. He's from Wisconsin.
Oh, really? I didn't see it. Oh, that's hilarious.
Our Wisconsin boy.
He's not going to be here for much longer.
Not very long. No. I mean, he is the target.
Yeah.
Well, I guess before I get into my thoughts on this scene, because that's the gist of the scene.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts?
So like they're showing him this guy, they show him the footage of him and the wife having sex. Goran freaks out about this a little bit. There's a lot of like weird dynamics happening here, and then they get to the point where Barry's like, okay, I'm gonna kill this dude for you, and he starts like giving them options of ways that he can take this guy out, and this was based on Fuchs' suggestion, I believe.
Because they're trying to impress these mobsters,
right? They're trying to impress them and like potentially get more jobs from them, I guess. And at one point he's like, so one way I can do it is I can stab him in the nuts for you. And they look at him and they're like, why would we want you to do that? Just shoot him.
Can't you just shoot him?
Can't you just shoot him? And like there's like a whole conversation, and it ends with Barry just going, I'll just shoot him. I'll just shoot him. I'll just shoot him. He says it 3 times, and I wrote that down. It was really funny.
Yeah, I love that little exchange too, because again, contrast. They're more disgusted by Barry stabbing a dude in the balls than we're just gonna shoot him in the head.
Right.
Like they're super excited about him shooting him in the head, but like, oh, you stab him in the ball? That's horrible. Why would you do that?
Yeah. And it was Fuchs' assumption that like, oh, these guys might
they'll be
that.
impressed by how hard you are. And again, it's the contrast of it all.
Yeah.
And then when Barry says like, I'll shoot him in the head, NoHo Hank smiles at Barry and says, Goran, I think he's going to shoot him in the head.
Yes. And that's how it ends.
And it just gives off this energy of, this has been a very successful job interview.
Yeah.
I think this guy's going to be a great fit for our company.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Job interview is...
Job interview energy.
Yeah, that's what's happening.
All right, so we're moving into the next portion of the assignment, which is the stakeout.
Yes.
So Barry goes to FedEx. He gets his gun. There's no silencer.
Oh, yeah, that was fun.
Which he's obviously pissed off about.
Yeah, he's like, thanks,
supposed to set him up. He's staking out Ryan at the gym, following Ryan around town. And eventually Ryan drives over and gets out of his car and goes into a building. We don't know what it is yet or what's going on.
Looks a little bit like run down.
Yeah.
Kind of like, yeah, it's not a fancy building.
No, not by no means, no. And so Barry's just bored in the car waiting for Ryan to come back out and decides he's gonna check out what's up. We get introduced to Sarah Goldberg's character, Sally.
Yes.
So Barry's walking up to this building and we just hear, fuck you. Don't you fucking call me lady. You fucking asshole. You motherfucker.
Yeah.
Fuck you too.
Yeah.
And we come around the corner and we see Sally sitting on some steps looking at a script and is just immediately thrown off by Barry standing there. He does not say a single word.
Nope.
She just looks at him, gets very upset because he threw off her thing, and she's called inside and just goes, shit.
Yeah. It's good.
Yeah, and cuts to Barry looking, for the first time, surprised. Like, surprised and a little put off.
That's an interesting observation.
Yeah.
I did not catch that as his like first sort of emotional reaction, but
Yes.
it absolutely was.
This whole next bit is the first time Barry is really showing any emotion.
Truly.
And this scene is also establishing just the high drama of this world that he's about to walk into. And it's not the world of assassins.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like the sheer number of curses that just came out of her mouth. Yeah, you would think some crazy shit is going on, but she's just in acting class.
Yes. We move into the theater. We finally figure out what's going on here.
Yep.
It's an acting class.
It's an acting class.
It's LA theater, baby.
Yep.
Where they only do scenes from movies.
Yep.
Sally is up on stage giving the best performance that she can of what she was just reading on the steps.
Yep.
And
it's not going well.
It's shit.
Yeah.
It's a shitty performance. So the acting instructor cuts her off, and this is where we meet Gene Cousineau,
Henry
Winkler's character, and he just starts berating.
He rips her a new one. I was like, dude.
It's mean.
Yeah. It's mean as hell.
It's fucking mean. He starts telling the whole class how she took him out for coffee and she was crying and it was ugly and she was saying she was never going to make it in this town. And, you know, he's saying like she's wasting her money. She's a horrible actress to the whole class.
Yeah. And she's like crying behind him.
But she's taking it.
Yep.
She's taking it. And then finally there's something that snaps and she goes, "That's not fair, Gene."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Act."
And he's like, "Use that. Go.
Use it. Go. Act." And what do you think about her second performance?
Better.
A lot better.
A lot better.
A lot better. Still a little bit over the top.
Yeah.
But a good
not
performance.
Perfect.
No.
But a marked improvement.
Yes. And so we learn a couple of things in this scene. We learn that Sally will take abuse up to a point.
Up to a point.
Up to a point, but she will take abuse.
Very good note.
Yes. And when she does stand up for herself, she's ready to fight.
Yeah.
Once she does make that decision.
Yeah. Just takes her a second.
Yeah. And she does have the potential to be a decent actress.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
We also learn a little bit about Gene in this scene. Obviously, he can be a huge asshole.
Yep.
But he can direct his students.
Right. He knows what he's doing.
Yes. And so you get the sense of like, he wants the best thing for his students.
Yeah.
He's just not great at going about doing that.
Yeah. He seems like, he struck me as one of those teachers who is really good at the thing that they're good at, like he knows his stuff, but he's not necessarily a good teacher.
Yes.
All the time. So yeah.
You nailed it. Spot on.
Thank you very much. I'm here all day.
Yeah. And then I got a little thing about performance here.
Okay.
I don't know if I've talked to you about this before. I love when shows or movies force you to think about performance. And this show does it a ton because you're in an acting class, so you're seeing them act scenes, and it's forcing you to think about the performance that characters are giving.
Yeah. I would say also in scenes where they're not in acting class, depending on the scene, and like we'll talk about the what would I call that scene? Barry's monologue scene basically later.
Yes.
But yeah, that was one of my notes too about this show, is it makes you
think about performance.
Makes you think about performance. Yes.
Yeah. And there's several times throughout the show, I think the most like easiest example to give is they do the Macbeth dialogue tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow.
Yep.
And they do it multiple times throughout one of the seasons. And each time it's done, it's given by Sarah Goldberg. She does it in a different way. And so initially leading up to the final performance of that monologue, you're like, oh, that's okay. Oh, that's kind of good. Oh, yeah, that was good. And then you see the actual final performance. And you're like, oh, shit, that was really good.
So that's in one of the later seasons. Okay.
And so it really starts to force you to think about how people act, how people behave. And based on that performance, how convincing they are.
Yeah.
Which, larger themes of life here.
Yeah. Well, and I think in that example in particular, too, it's focusing on process.
Yes.
Which is one of our favorite things ever.
Yes, it is.
We love process. And yeah, so like literally that's making you think about how does someone actually even go about practicing acting? How does someone go about attempting different ways to act?
Yes.
Attempting different ways to speak lines of dialogue. Yeah, and that's super interesting.
And how to like convey emotion.
Yeah.
And I think one of the important things in this scene, and then another important thing in the Macbeth monologue, Barry is Sarah Goldberg, Sally's scene partner for the Macbeth one.
Okay.
So halfway through the monologue, someone comes in to tell Macbeth that the queen is dead, and then the monologue continues, right?
Yeah.
So Barry is that person who comes in.
Okay.
And so there's kind of two things I want to highlight with this that I think play into the larger, I guess, theme of the show, or like mirrors the show at large, which is there's going to be two things that impact your performance. One is going to be your director.
Sure.
Who is manipulating you into getting the performance they want.
Basically.
They can't tell you how to act. They can't tell you how to say things or move about the stage, but they can do things to, but they can do things to coax that out of you, right? So you have the director or the handler who can, try their best to move their pieces on the board.
There's a parallel for you.
And then the other thing, too, that I think we get a lot through the acting class is the way that how we interact with other people can also heighten or lower our performance, right? And so, like, surrounding yourself with the right people can set you up better for success or failure.
Right. And just, like, the energy people have.
Yeah. So that's my little like sidebar on performance. Again, we'll
come back to that. I'm sure
it does it a lot.
Yeah.
And I love it. I love what it makes you think about.
Yeah, for sure.
So back to the class. Yeah, like I said, this is really the first time Barry starts to show emotion. And it's in response to Sally's performance. So at one point in her little scene on the stage, she yells, "Suck my dick."
Yeah.
And he looks so offended and surprised. Like, what did she just say? And again, it's part of the comedy of the show is the contrast of like what you should be offended by versus what you are offended by.
Sure.
And, I think this says something about America at large, which is we're more offended by violent language in media than we are by the violence itself.
By actual violence.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I'm not going to go too deep into that one.
We'll just leave that one right there.
So after the performance, Gene comforts Sally. He was like, I had to do that. I love you. And then he gives a big speech to the class saying, we're here studying life. And you just get this sense that Gene is really self-absorbed. He's grandiose. He thinks acting is this great gift to the world. But he clearly he takes joy in seeing his students thrive and succeed. Anything you want to add?
I think so. I have a line of dialogue written down that I'm not sure if I think it's Gene who says it. He says, "I want you to create a life right here on this stage."
Yes.
And who was he talking to at that?
I think he was just talking to the class, right?
Just the class in general.
Yeah.
Well, he says that line and they like hard cut to Barry.
Yes.
And like his face like sort of is, like you said, he's kind of having this like emotional reawakening as all of this is happening. And yeah, I just thought that was nice.
Yeah, he's starting to resonate with what's going on with the vibe.
But like that line in particular, and then the cut straight to him, I was like, oh, what? That's setting up the entire show. Like, you're going to create a life on this stage. And he, up until this point, has been living, but has he had a life, you know, that he's been enjoying? Not really. So now this is going to be his new opportunity to create a life.
Yes. Great call out.
Thank you.
So next, Ryan basically surprise attacks Barry from the side. He blindsides him.
Yeah.
Ryan's scene partner is gone that day. He's missing from class. So he asked Barry to step in and fill in the role of his scene partner. And again, just another call out on the direction here and the cinematography.
Yep. I had a note too.
Gene calls Ryan up to the stage.
Okay.
Ryan says, I'm going to do the scene with this guy. And he shoves Barry forward. Barry is standing in the shadow.
Yep.
And he shoves him forward into a spotlight.
Yep. I wrote the line. I'm going to do the scene with him. And then literally pushes him into the spotlight. It was real good.
It's not subtle.
No, it's not subtle at all.
but it works.
It's real effective. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love the look that Barry has on his face during this moment, too, because it's just pure terror.
Oh, yeah. He's totally petrified.
Yes.
And he's just like killed.
Again, a guy who kills
he killed a guy 5 seconds ago.
Working with the Chechen mob.
Yeah.
Is terrified of acting. So yeah, this is, again, the first time we're really seeing emotion from Barry.
Yep.
So we get the scene on stage. I'm not going to say much about it. Barry reads his one line in a very quick, kind of monotone way.
I did write, just real quick, about Ryan. I wrote, what in the fuck is on his head? He's wearing a god-awful wig.
Yeah, it's like blackface without the blackface, right?
Yeah.
Because he's wearing a dreadlock wig.
It's real upsetting.
And he's doing a black accent.
It's real upsetting. It's really bad.
It's horrible.
Anyway.
But Barry's performance is somehow even worse.
Yeah, I wrote, oof, that line read.
Yes. And then, you know, the scene ends and the whole class is cheering.
The whole class applauds.
The whole class is applauding.
He likes it.
They're clearly cheering for Ryan, but yeah, the camera focuses on Barry and he gives a little tiny smile.
He gets some feelings out of that.
Yeah.
He feels a little good about that.
He likes being applauded.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, this brings up the question of why does Barry want to act? I'm not going to answer that.
Okay.
But
yeah.
What's his motivation here?
To feel something.
Yes. So then Gene comes up on stage, just looks at Barry. Who are you?
Yeah.
And Barry gives his real name. I don't know if you caught that.
Yes. I don't know if I was expecting him not to, but
yeah,
good point.
He says, Barry.
I'm
Barry
Barry.
who? Barry Berkman. Well, shit. Shouldn't have given my real name. I'm supposed to kill this dude. But yeah, he gives his real name. And, you know, fuck.
Yep.
The whole class knows who he is now.
Yup.
And Gene lets him know this was your one free audit class. If you want to come back to this class, you need to prepare a monologue. So we're getting the setup. So class ends. We get to post class. Everyone's outside. Barry exits the theater and just walks past the group of the fellow actors. Sally comes over and apologizes for yelling at him earlier. And then asks him, you know, what are you going to do for your monologue? Are you going to stay in this class? Sounds nice, but then she, you know, just talks about herself.
Yeah.
Doesn't even let Barry
She gets
answer.
on a roll real quick.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's very excited, very passionate about acting.
Bubbly, I would say.
Yes. Yeah. And then she invites him to the bar with the rest of the acting class.
Yep.
So
which is called residuals.
Residuals.
Which is cute.
Little checks on the wall for 14 cents.
2 cents. Yeah, I saw one for 2 cents and I was like, oof.
Yes. So we meet the rest of the acting class, you know, a bit of an ensemble here. Not really going to get into it because it's not relevant for the 2 episodes we're looking at.
For y'all that have seen The Good Place, though,
Darcy is in this.
Yes, who plays Janet on The Good Place. So I did recognize her and I was happy to see her there.
Yeah, and then also from The Good Place is, I can't think of her name, but she plays the Australian professor in The Good Place.
Oh, God, I don't remember.
Yeah, which... quick sidebar tangent. So hold on. Now I got to look her up. We got to be accurate here. Okay. Simone Garnett is her name.
Okay.
So yeah, she plays the Australian professor in The Good Place, and she does an Australian accent, which she has gotten a lot of shit for the accent just not being good.
Okay.
She is in reality British,
Sure.
which she is in the show Barry. She has an English accent.
Okay.
And there is a scene, I can't remember which episode, but someone suggests she plays an Australian, and she goes, I would never play an Australian. Why would I do that? Why would I ever want to play an Australian?
Oh my God.
And it's clearly just poking fun at her performance in The Good Place.
She has trauma from that.
Yes. We love meta.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, the bar scene, you basically get the whole acting class. You get the vibe. They're encouraging Barry, but they're also self-absorbed.
Yeah,
right.
Extremely.
They're hyping him up, saying he should do the monologue, but it's really just an excuse for them to talk about themselves.
Yeah.
But
and like acting stuff.
yes.
Yeah.
But Barry's clearly kind of digging the vibe. He's awkward.
Yeah.
He looks very uncomfortable, but there is something about this support that's around him that it's clicking with him.
Yep.
Yeah. So everyone goes out onto the dance floor to dance, and we get this moment of, I would call it, setting Sally up to be a manic pixie dream girl.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. And she is absolutely not a manic pixie dream girl, but you're seeing this all from Barry's perspective.
Sure. Yeah. It's very obviously shot from Barry's perspective. I would
Yes.
say.
Like slow-mo.
Yeah.
Sally's dancing slowly, looking over her shoulder.
Yeah. I wrote, oh no, he's in love.
Yes. But yeah, you get this idea of Barry almost thinking Sally could be his salvation, right?
Sure. Yeah.
It's
very, I don't know, like hero moment.
Yes.
Sort of. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And she's playing it up too.
She is.
She's like looking over her shoulder at him and dancing.
Yeah.
And there's flashing lights.
She's flirtatious.
She's being cute.
Yeah. And then, that gets cut off by Ryan Madison pounding on the table going, Barry Berkman. So again, just announcing to everybody who this assassin is.
Yeah.
So yeah, he encourages Barry to take a new name. Ryan's original name is Richard Krempf, and Barry needs a new name, a new stage name. Why not Barry Block? Because he looks, like a block.
I laughed out loud at this. This one got me. I don't know why, but as soon as he said Barry Block, I lost it a little bit. I was like, Barry Block? What are we doing? Oh, man.
It's the little things that this show does to get a laugh.
Yeah.
But yeah, Sally comes over and asks Barry to drive Ryan home because he has like 7 DUIs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And she gives Barry a quick kiss on the cheek and walks away. And Barry, I wrote down, he just looks haunted. Like he's just, how the fuck did I end up here?
Yeah.
Like, this is all spiraling out of control.
Right. Some wild events have happened, and they're not the wild events he's used to.
No.
Which would be killing people. Yeah, it's a fun scene. I wrote, like, in the beginning when they're talking about, like, different... Are they talking about... Oh, they're talking about different monologues, right? And they're trying to... At one point, they're trying to figure out, like, oh, what's that one monologue from? Blah, blah, blah. And they're like... They go from Kevin Spacey to India to Indiana Jones to Usual... I was like, what's going on? Like,
Usual
it's so
Suspects.
fast.
It's Usual Suspects.
It's Usual Suspects. Yeah, it's just like super snappy dialogue, really fast, but in that overwhelming way where, like, if you're in a conversation with those type of people, you just feel like, I felt like Barry in that moment.
Yeah.
Like, they're definitely trying to put you in his shoes of being like, oh my God, these people are so...
They're just intense. They're manic. They're excited.
Yeah.
Which is not Barry.
No. I did like the joke about nobody's actually from LA, Barry, and then the one girl's like, oh, but I am actually.
Yeah, Darcy is like, but I am, remember?
And yeah, they just kind of regurgitate a lot of platitudes at him about acting and like, you just gotta, stick it out and like do your time sort of thing. And at one point, I did want to point out that I think it's in the scene, in the part where he's watching her dance. The lighting reflection on his face is like flashing red and blue.
I never noticed that.
Bruh. I clocked it and I was like, why did I clock that? I made a mental note. I wrote my little note, and then we're gonna come back to that later.
Oh, we are going to come back to that because it's playing a very. I love the song that they play there.
Oh yeah, I also wrote in the song that they're playing. I don't know what the song is, but the lyrics I heard were "It's a lie" in the background. Something about lying.
Oh
yeah,
we're gonna get into that.
Yeah. Too. So those two little things. Remember the flashing lights, and remember it's a lie.
And flashing red and blue lights.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. So Barry gives Ryan a lift home. So we're sitting outside of Ryan's apartment in the car with Barry and Ryan.
And the whole time you're like, is he going to shoot this dude right now?
Right? Like, he's supposed to kill him.
Yeah. That's what I was like waiting for it to happen a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're definitely on edge.
Yeah.
But it's still a very bro-y vibe.
Oh, yeah.
Because Ryan's just a bro-y bro.
Yeah.
And he's very encouraging to Barry. Like, he really wants him to do the class and do a monologue.
Yep.
And he ends up giving...
He's like a doofus.
Yeah.
But, you know... Yeah, he's a nice doofus.
He's a himbo.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a himbo who participates in extramarital affairs with the wives of mobsters.
Himbo.
Okay. Moving
on. So yeah, he gives Barry Gene Cousineau's book about acting.
I wrote not the Henry Winkler book.
And then he tells Barry that he's a very generous performer.
Yeah, I wrote that down too. I liked that line.
Yeah, and it's something that like genuinely hits Barry's heart.
Yeah. I think being called generous is not something he's used to.
It's like the first time that he's not,
like, I am.
He's not just being praised. He's being praised for something good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it hits him in a place that he did not expect.
Right.
Ryan and Barry hug in the car. It's a very touching moment. Right?
I mean,
very sentimental.
Ryan hugs Barry, right? Barry does not go in for a hug.
Right.
Yeah.
But the moment is immediately ruined. The vibes are killed because the camera cuts to NoHo Hank sitting in a car across the street watching this all.
Yeah.
He just says, "What the fuck?"
It's so good.
What the fuck? They were hugging.
I loved that. I loved that cut. I wrote Rut-row, the mobsters are watching. Yeah, and I loved the what the fuck. That was an earned what the fuck.
NoHo Hank's line delivery just it's so good. Right, so we got a new problem. So Fuchs shows up in LA to sort things out because the Chechens just saw their assassin hugging the target.
Yep, and called him, I guess.
Yeah, that's what's implied. Is they called the handler to see what was going on.
Right.
And this is like the most excited Barry's ever been to see Fuchs. And Barry just goes into this whole thing about how excited he is to have found this acting class. And this is the first time that you really see how much this all meant to Barry because he is animated.
Yeah, I wrote down this is the most he has said all episode.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And he says, they made me feel really good about myself.
Yeah.
You know how you and I talk all the time about my purpose? And Fuchs just says, you think acting can be your purpose?
Yeah.
And Barry basically keeps going like, I figure I'll just do, hits at night and I can act during the day.
Now that you're talking through it, this is very much giving like not young child, but like, I don't know, young adult child maybe. Yes. Like, I want to pursue acting. And then father figure being like, how is that going to work exactly? So, yeah.
Except, we have a man-child who's, like you said, like being like that young adult of, I'm going to follow my dreams.
These are my dreams, Dad.
You're an assassin, bro. So Fuchs immediately tries to pull him back down to earth.
Right.
And I love what Fuchs says here. And I love Barry's response to what Fuchs says here. Mm-hmm. Fuchs says, you want a hobby? You could take a painting. Hitler painted. John Wayne Gacy painted. Never got in the way of what they were doing. Mm-hmm. And Barry just ignores that and keeps going.
He uses Hitler as an example. Oh man, that line took me out. That line took me out.
But just the fact that Barry doesn't even acknowledge that he was just compared to Hitler.
Right.
But again, you're seeing the I guess the conflict in the logic, which is Fuchs tells Barry that he kills bad people.
Yeah.
And now he's comparing Barry to Hitler and John Wayne Gacy, who are both mass murderers.
Yeah. I wrote down like basically Fuchs is saying this is what you do and this is all you do.
Mm-hmm. This is who you are. This is your identity.
Right. And that's the conflict, basically, of the whole show.
You are a killer. And he even tells Barry that you are a killer. This is what you do.
Yeah.
And as Fuchs is talking to Barry and working his claws into him, and again, Fuchs is a master manipulator.
Right.
You see all the emotion drain from Barry's face, and he goes back to Terminator killer mode. You're just no emotion anymore. It's all gone from him.
Yep.
Yeah, so Fuchs is truly the director in Barry's life.
Uh-huh.
I'm not subtle.
It's there.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on the scene?
They do a chair gag where Fuchs pulls out a chair.
All right. So you know this thing that guys do when they want to look cool?
Yeah.
And so they sit backwards in a chair.
Yeah. And
with
like
their legs spread.
Yeah, legs spread, rest their arms over the back of the chair. Fuchs tries to do that, but there's arms on the chair, right?
The chair has arms.
The chair has arms, he can't do it. So he like has to futz with it for a second, like turn it the right way back around and then sit down. That made me laugh.
Yeah, it like doesn't break his stride in what he's trying to talk to Barry about. Again, just like the ways they insert comedy throughout this. And just to highlight the ridiculousness of the whole situation.
Yeah, and it was a moment that made me wonder if it had been scripted or not. Or if he saw the opportunity and took it, or if he genuinely thought to himself, oh, I'm going to sit on this chair backwards, and then realized, oh, wait, I can't sit on this chair backwards.
Yeah.
So
if Bill Hader or Stephen Root is listening to this, please let us know.
Please tell us your thought process here.
Yeah. So now we are back outside the acting class. Barry is once again stalking Ryan.
Yep.
Sitting
still
in his car.
the shitty car.
Yep. Still in the shitty ass car.
Still car seat in the back.
Mm-hmm. Waiting for this moment to kill Ryan. The class pours out of the building. Everyone starts to leave. Barry starts up the car, getting ready to follow Ryan again. But Jean comes outside. And
it's dark now, right?
Yes, it's night.
So he's been there for a while.
Yeah, basically all day.
Yeah.
So yeah, we know that Barry skipped the class. He didn't do his monologue. He's not going to go back to this acting class. But as soon as Jean comes out, Barry stops the car.
Yep.
And we're like, okay, all right, what's going to happen?
Okay. What are we going to do?
So he walks over to Jean. Jean's sitting in this nice like Escalade type car, black tinted windows, rolls down the window for Barry. And Barry, real innocently just kind of asked, do you think I would have been good enough for your class?
Can I make a quick note about this car?
Yes.
I wrote, why does Henry Winkler have an enormous SUV? This thing, do you know what kind of SUV this is?
No.
Okay, I don't either, but it's huge and it has tinted windows. And for a hot second, Kampy, I thought, is this man also involved with the mob somehow?
Spoiler.
Oh!
No. Well, no.
No. But I just couldn't tell. Like, is this supposed to just be funny? Like, is this just like similar to the chair gag of like,
yeah, like
it's just like a weird out of place choice?
He's a pavement princess, right? He has to have this big car because he's a big man.
Yeah.
Okay. Dark windows because he's a mysterious star.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's
kind of what I thought.
It's just helping to establish how full of himself he is. I
okay.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm down. Continue.
Yes. So yeah, Barry asked Jean very innocently, "Do you think I would have been good enough for your class?" And Jean just straight up says, "No, you're dog shit."
Yeah. It's pretty brutal.
And he says this line that I will talk about more in my final notes.
Yep.
But he says, "Acting is truth, and I saw no truth."
I wrote that down too.
Thoughts?
I wrote, he's so serious. He believes that so intensely.
He does.
Yeah.
He really does. And yeah, I think it plays into one of the central themes of the show, which is why I will bring it back up when we wrap this whole episode up.
Yep.
And we get what I would say is our first and only exposition dump of the episode.
Yes.
But it's done well.
And yeah, as we'll talk about, there's a reason.
So Barry launches into a speech.
Yep.
About how he fought in Afghanistan, and when he got back, he was really depressed and he didn't really have a purpose. And Fuchs, his dad's friend, came and gave Barry a purpose. And he said to Barry that what he did over there could be useful over here. And he's like, it's a job. The money is good. These people I take out are bad people. They're pieces of shit.
Yep.
Barry's target is Ryan Madison, who's hugging him.
Yeah.
By the way.
Yeah.
Interjection.
Yep.
But Barry ends with, maybe there's more to me than that, as in assassinating people. And then he says, but maybe there's not. Maybe that's all I'm good at. And then, yeah, anyway, thanks for your time. Looking very dejected, Barry walks away.
Yep.
And Jean thinks that whole thing was just an improvised monologue.
Yep. Yeah, about halfway through, I wrote down, OMG, this is his monologue. And once I had that realization, and then by the time I got through the rest of it, I was like, oh, that was like the pivotal scene of the entire episode. Yeah.
And yeah, so if acting is truth, this is Jean seeing the truth.
Right.
And he thinks it's
fake.
Acting.
Yep.
So yeah, basically Jean is like, yeah, you're in the class. Come back. Like, you got to pay in cash or in full or whatever.
Yeah. He makes it a serious point to be like, you got to pay up front.
Yes. Yeah, Jean does not work for free.
No.
But yeah, it's a pivotal moment in the whole show because Barry is taking on a new director. He's taking on a new handler. A new father figure.
Okay.
Basically, though, it's the antithetical Fuchs.
Okay.
You have Jean on one side of Barry, Fuchs on the other.
Sure. Okay.
Pulling them into two different worlds.
Yeah.
And before we leave the scene, Jean asks Barry what his name is again. Mm-hmm. Did you catch this?
I did.
What name does Barry give?
Barry Block.
Barry Block. So yeah, we see Barry's ready to take on a new identity. He's ready to take on a new identity and new people in his life who could influence him in a positive direction.
And he is ready to become an actor.
Exactly.
Did you have any other notes on this?
I didn't.
On this scene?
Do you?
I do. I want to talk about, so the monologue, it's a static shot the whole time. Camera does not move. Did you notice anything particular about this scene composition, the shot composition?
Not off the top of my head.
Oh, I got one for you.
Yes.
I got one for you.
Tell me.
So it's a static shot the whole time. It's shot, we're facing Barry from, I'm just going to keep saying Henry Winkler, from Henry Winkler's perspective, from the car. And there's a street light in the back.
Yes, there is.
And it very much looks like a spotlight again.
So it does.
Yep. So you basically just have him. You can maybe, I don't even know if you can see any like ground or anything in the background, but basically him, a black background, more or less, because it's dark outside. And this one street light up in the corner. And it's like perfectly placed so that like there's, the light is like perfectly diagonal, sort of over his head.
I can't believe I never noticed this. For the listeners, which is all of you, I was doing the wow meme.
Yeah, she was just mind blown.
Mind blown.
But yeah, I again, when I realized that it was a monologue, I also picked that one up and I was like, yes, this is it.
Yeah, and it's a great monologue. Like, it's
great monologue, great shot comp. Yes. I love that we don't move the whole time.
No,
I mean, which again kind of goes back to the points the show makes about performance and about acting, and how it makes fun of acting a lot.
It does,
but it also really loves acting. The show, the show's perspective is, it's like both worlds for sure. Like acting is ridiculous. But also acting can definitely make you feel things and can be a true art form.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like Bill Hader's love letter to acting.
Yeah.
Which is, I love you, but you're so damn ridiculous.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And this is one of those, like, I love you moments. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So
And
I loved that streetlight.
For an exposition dump, it's done really well.
Yeah.
And it makes sense in the story.
Well, and honestly, I love that we got it like halfway or almost to the end of the episode.
Yeah,
honestly.
basically the end of the episode.
Yeah. So like you had pointed out earlier that he had some medals or something in his apartment from his service, but I didn't pick that up as a first time viewer. So this was my first time hearing like, oh, okay, he's
an ex-Marine.
Yeah, he's an ex-Marine, and like he did this in the service, and then he got out, and then Fuchs, trained him or took him under his wing, I guess. So for me, it was very helpful context. And yeah, exactly. I didn't feel dumped on. I felt like, oh, okay, this is also serving the purpose of being his monologue.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's also nice too, because like the show doesn't waste a ton of time of how did we get here.
Right.
This is how we got here. Okay, we're moving on.
Yeah, it's like less than a minute.
Yes. And I'm going to talk more about that in a minute as soon as we finish talking about this episode.
And then real quick to end out that scene, they show him walking away from the car and he like does a little skip while he's going back to his car. It's so cute.
Oh, also Gene almost runs over his toes.
Yeah, he's like, oh, move your toes.
The little things to just undermine any serious
moment. And I also wrote that Gene, in response to Barry's monologue, says, well, the story's nonsense, but there's something to work with. And I wrote, not the writers making fun of themselves.
Again, we love meta.
I love it when that happens, when you can just clearly hear the writers speaking through the dialogue. Yeah, good stuff.
All right, so now it is time to kill Ryan.
It's murder time.
So again, let's remember that just 2 seconds ago, Barry says he kills bad people, real pieces of shit.
Yep.
And now he's on his way to kill the guy that hugged him and gave him a book and tell him to join the acting class.
Who is a dumbass, to be clear. But he's not a terrible person. He's not like a terrorist.
No, he seems like a decent guy. Yeah. Like someone you'd want to be friends with.
Yeah. Slept with the wrong woman.
Yes, exactly. So Barry drives to Ryan's apartment. He sees Ryan pull up in his truck.
I wrote, it's his big stupid truck, so we know who it is.
Yes. It's a very distinct truck.
Yeah.
And Barry gets his gun out. He is power walking to that car. He is ready to kill this guy. He walks up to the door. He has his gun drawn, and Ryan's already dead. But the engine's running. What the hell happened? Oh my God, there's a bullet shot through the windshield.
Yep.
And we pan across the street to see the Chechens.
It's a good pan. I liked that pan.
You see the Chechens sitting in the car across the street, and one of them
is it the guy whose wife was involved? Is that
no?
Okay.
It's
just a random
NoHo Hank, and then two of the faceless goons.
Yeah. Okay.
And one of the faceless goons is sitting on top of the car, legs through the sunroof.
Yep.
Holding a giant sniper rifle.
An enormous rifle.
Yes, like it just looks ridiculous.
Yeah.
And Barry very calmly is walking up to them, being like, "Hey guys,
I loved this part.
What's going on here?"
Loved this part.
It's a very tense moment.
Yeah, it's very tense, but I love that he immediately starts like assessing the situation, right? Like he clocks them. Like we pan, he clocks them, and he's like, he just says, "What's going on, guys? What's going on, guys?" Mm-hmm. Like it's just kind of like he's not freaking out. He's not raising his voice. He's not. Yeah, he's very chill. But, like, you can hear something's coming.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the dude with the rifle is trying to, like, recock the gun, but it's jammed.
The gun's jammed.
Barry's walking closer and closer. What's going on,
He's walking up to them.
And I think this is the first moment for me where I was
and they
like,
start freaking out.
Yeah. This was the moment, though. I was like, oh, Barry can actually be terrifying.
Yeah.
Because there's something about this man not being fazed or scared of walking up to a car full of men with guns who want to kill him.
Right. He's outnumbered. He's outgunned.
Mm-hmm.
They're in a car. He's not. He's on foot. Like in every conceivable way, he should be afraid.
Yes.
And he's not at all.
No, he's
not even
perfectly
fazed.
calm. He's in his element.
Yeah.
And as the guy is trying to recock the gun and get it unjammed, Barry's like, you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Don't do it. Yeah. He warns him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like getting progressively, I don't know, like it's almost like he's getting more focused. I don't even know how to describe it. Like he goes from being like, what's going on, guys? And then goes like, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. And
the gun is unjammed and Barry shoots them all dead.
It's nuts.
Boom, 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 boom.
It's nuts. I wrote, oh my God, he just destroys them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Although quick caveat, because people would call us out in the comments if I don't point this out. No-Ho Hank is in the car.
Yes.
Yes. He only gets shot in the shoulder and takes cover behind the rest of the car.
I assumed, since you told me he was a central character and he did indeed seem to be shot.
Yes.
I assumed he would walk away from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Barry shoots him. It's terrifying.
Y'all, like when we say he shoots him, he fires off like 10 rounds.
In like a matter of like 3 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like
the whole tension is over as soon as it starts.
Yeah. It's like 4 rounds per dude. And they're just like I said, he destroys them.
Yes.
Like they're all dead in 5 seconds.
Yeah. It's very shocking.
Yeah.
Barry,
he just walks away.
He walks away.
Yeah.
He tosses the gun aside, chucks the keys at the car, and just walks away.
Yeah, these are also some again long shots. The show does so many long shots, long takes. Yeah, and I love as he's walking away. First of all, he walks away and then he's like, "Fuck," which is so good. Because he's just shot a bunch of dudes without a silencer on his gun. Mm-hmm. And as he's starting to walk away, you just start to see people's lights come on.
The Chechen mob.
Pissed off the Chechen mob. Yeah, there's a lot of bad things that just happened. He just goes, fuck. And then starts walking away. People's lights start coming on in the houses. Mm-hmm. He doesn't pay any attention to them, but like we're paying attention to them. And he throws his gun away.
Yeah, and we get a quick shot of the scene from the perspective of inside the car that the Chechens were in.
Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, because we're trying to call attention to there was a lipstick camera.
Yes, the lipstick
dashboard of the car.
Yep, and I liked the blinking red light. Mm-hmm. I was like, just so you know that it's on.
So we're setting this up for the rest of the season, right?
Okay, sure.
We're figuring out, okay, there's a murder that's happened and there's a camera that caught Barry.
Yeah, and we, earlier in the episode, Hank was waving the lipstick camera around. And now it's coming back, so that was nice.
Yeah. So we get set up for the rest of the season, which we obviously won't get into on this episode of the podcast. So Barry walks away from the scene and walks through an alley directly into a diner. Yep. So he is not that far away from the scene.
No, not at all.
No. Cop cars start roaring down the road in front of the diner.
Yep.
He sits down in a booth, and in the background you can see the cops setting off like a roadblock,
sure,
basically to like cordon off the scene. Mm-hmm. Waitress comes over to take his order, and they have a quick little conversation. Mm-hmm. And he asks what's under her arm, and she's like, "That's a script. I got an audition tomorrow. I'm an actress."
Yeah.
And Barry just looks at her, nods, and goes, "Me too." Mm-hmm. And cut to a close-up shot of Barry nodding, smiling. We get the music. The
music comes back.
What was the lyric?
It's a lie.
It's a lie. Starts playing. And you got the cops in the background, so you can hear the sirens in addition to the music.
Yep.
And in that close-up shot of Barry, we see the red and blue lights.
The red and blue light comes back.
Boom.
Boom, boom.
Boom.
End scene. End episode.
Scene. So good. I love the directing in this show. It's so good.
Yeah, I was so once I saw that last scene, I was so glad I had caught the other scene earlier.
I'm so glad you pointed that out to me.
Yeah, because when I registered it earlier, I was like, oh, red and blue lights flashing on his face, kind of looks like cop car lights. And then we did this later, and I was like, that's what it was for.
And it's setting up the whole premise of the show, which is he's going to be in two worlds. We're going to have the lie music and the acting and the fun and the drama and the bombasticness of it all.
Yeah.
and we're gonna have the violence and the murder.
And also he's gonna be under scrutiny, I assume, for the rest of this season at least, as far as this particular shooting.
Exactly.
With the cop car lights flashing on his face.
I won't spoil anything that happens in this season except for
Nice.
They're gonna investigate this murder.
Yeah.
And he's gonna be under heat for it.
For sure.
Yeah. So yeah, the one thing that I want to quick talk about this show that I just absolutely love, and we briefly vaguely touched on it, this show could have been so formulaic, right? Like, you got the setup, you got a hitman, here's the mark, here's the target, do the job.
Yep.
Like, in the way that Dexter is very serialized, right? Okay. Of, we got a murder of the week and like an overall arc and stuff like that.
Procedural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This show really resists doing that. There are marks throughout the show because he is an assassin, right? So we got to have that world come into play somehow. But for the most part, it stays focused on this primary setup. Like, this inciting incident is the whole thing for the whole season. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like everything that happens through the whole show for the next 4 seasons all comes back to the events that happened in this first episode.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, because, we'll talk about the finale pretty soon, but I was struggling to put the, to connect all the dots.
A lot changes by the finale.
No shit.
So I will answer questions that you have.
Yeah. But as far as this pilot, I loved it. I thought it was a great pilot. I love all the silence and the stillness that they use. Like I was saying, they don't move the camera a lot. So
they're not afraid to hold on a shot.
No, they are not.
They trust that they have your attention.
Yes, they trust you to pay attention, and they trust everyone who's performing to keep your attention, which is great. And not something you necessarily see in a lot of shows.
No,
particularly these days. Yeah, especially for the kind of cold open, I guess. Yeah, just how quiet it felt at first, and just like very chill, but in a depressed way. I don't know. I just kept coming back to that. I was like, why? It's so quiet. It's so quiet. I was like, okay, there's a style to this immediately. I was like, oh, we're doing something. Like, this is, trying to do something artistically, which is always fun. And I think, especially when you can set that up in a pilot from the jump, like, I think you have shows that find that style, kind of along the way, along the first season.
They find their own voice and their own groove.
Like they start out in one way and then they realize like, oh, we need to do more of XYZ.
Like Parks and Rec is a great example of a show that found its tone and footing in the later seasons.
Absolutely. I just watched a video on that actually. But the show knew from the beginning, it would seem.
It knew exactly what it was about.
Yeah. And I have shows that I'm going to talk about that also have that same...
Can't wait.
That same aspect to it, which I love as well. So, that was amazing. Like I said, I love how guy he is. I love how dude he is. He's just like you were saying, it's the contrast. It's like you do not expect this man to be an assassin.
No. And good at being an assassin.
And very good.
See how good he is.
Very good.
Shooting people in that last scene.
Yeah.
And up to that point, you are led to believe he's a bumbling idiot.
Yes. And I wrote, he turns into a machine so fast and fucking takes these guys out.
Yes.
So, I mean, that, again, contrast. It's played so effectively. Because, up until that point, you're like, Barry trying to be an actor, trying to make friends, like trying to get his manipulative dad off his back, like, and then you see him fucking annihilate these guys and you're like, okay,
maybe he should be handled.
And like I said, I didn't realize it was such a short runtime per episode. So only,
which thank God, because otherwise my notes would be so much
I know
longer.
Right? Can you imagine? But 30-minute episodes, great. They pack so much in. There's no wasted space, even a little bit. And this entire show is only 32 episodes long. It's only 8 episodes per season, 4 seasons. So you know what, I might actually watch all of it.
Yes. Oh my God. We could have so many more conversations.
We could do a bonus episode if I watched the whole show.
Oh my God. I would love it. And the final thing I would like to call out about this first pilot and just the setup for the whole show is the way they set up Barry and his character, and like why you as the audience member should care and root for him.
Mm-hmm.
And like you really get this glimmer of hope in this episode of maybe he can do it.
Maybe he can do it.
Maybe he can
pull
turn
it off.
his life around. Maybe he can get out of being an assassin and become an actor and be around good
or maybe
people.
even like maybe he can just even juggle the two lives.
Yeah, exactly. But you also see there is like Barry is disconnected from what he does.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't feel any remorse for what he does. The fact that he like believes the lie that he's killing piece of shit people.
Yep.
While becoming friends with one of those people.
Yep.
And
which he doesn't actually kill.
No, true.
So.
But he's also not fazed by Ryan being dead.
No.
He's not bothered by it.
No.
And so you get that
he's confused.
Yeah. But so I just like it because you're given a reason to cheer and root for Barry, but you're also given a reason to root against him because he is scary.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's something about that I like. And like I keep comparing this show to Dexter, and I'm going to keep doing it.
That's fair.
Because like, I don't know, for me, there is a very specific type of show that Barry falls into, which is bad guy does bad things, but you root for him anyway.
Yeah, sure.
So that's Dexter, that's Breaking Bad.
Is he an anti-hero?
I don't know. See, I don't know.
I don't know. I haven't seen enough.
That could be an interesting podcast conversation if you watch
that might
the
be a
whole
whole
show.
other can of worms.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whether or not Barry could be considered an anti-hero, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Barry takes that concept of we're going to cheer for a bad guy doing bad things.
Yeah.
And it both encourages that behavior, but also very much challenges that assumption. Because, and I'm going to get into this even more, in this first episode, when you do see Barry go machine mode and go violent, like it's scary.
Yeah, it's
and
nuts.
There's no glorification of what happens there.
No.
It is just violence, pure and simple.
Yeah.
And you're just left feeling like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
And you're really seeing the consequence of what happens when you cheer for a bad guy doing bad things. We'll get into that more. But yeah, before we wrap up talking about the first episode, any other comments?
I don't think so. I think I ran through all my stuff. I'm excited to just get into the finale. Do you want to take a quick break first?
Yeah, definitely. You want some tea?
I'm kind of hot.
Fair enough. All right, we're going to take a break and open windows.
All right.
Test.
Testing.
All right. As you take a sip of tea.
Yeah.
Amanda, what is your rating for this first episode of Barry?
My rating for the pilot of Barry is this episode is getting 1 out of 1 ways to kill a man is stabbing him in the nuts.
Love it.
I thought that was an appropriate rating for this episode.
Yeah, that's a good one. I appreciate that.
Thank you. What's yours?
I am giving this episode a 2 out of 2 totally inconspicuous lipstick cameras. What lipstick camera?
What? A lipstick camera? That's definitely not going to come back later.
No, not at all. So yeah, that's Barry episode 1. Make your mark.
In the bag.
Hey y'all, this is Editing Kampy here. Much like with Once Upon a Time, we bit off way more than we can chew, so we're splitting this episode into 2. So stick around for Barry part 2, where we will be talking about the series finale. Yeah, cue the outro. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Show Off. If you enjoyed this one, go ahead and leave us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcast. And give us your review of our episode pick for this week's pod. You can also email us at theshowoffpod@gmail.com. See you all next week.